Hello everyone, I'm Jack Fisher and welcome to my world. And in that world, there are many stories about fame, from the price people pay to get it, to the toll it takes on some people, to the vast culture and media landscape surrounding it. There are plenty of stories, real and fictional, that explore this world of glitz, glamour, fortune, and power. But personally, I've always found the real life stories to be the most impactful. And in terms of stories about fame, none come close to that of Michael Jackson. Now, I know a lot has been said about Michael Jackson's legacy in the years since he passed away. And with each year that follows, it feels like that legacy is getting more and more obscured, and not for the right reasons. But I still want to talk about it and the story behind his fame. Like so many others my age, I remember just how big he was. It really is impossible to overstate the breadth of his fame and celebrity. Now, I was alive for both the peaks and pitfalls of that celebrity. And I also listened to Michael Jackson's music. I watched his music videos. I've also read some of the many weird stories that have been told about him. And while I never considered myself a huge fan, I don't deny that, in terms of sheer star power, Michael Jackson was in a league all his own. And the full extent of that star power is difficult to fathom today, even for people who become stars for all the wrong reasons. And I'll say it again because it bears repeating. It's impossible to overstate just how big Michael Jackson was. Anyone under the age of 30 really can't hope to understand the status he had in the mid-1980s and early 1990s. Regardless of whether you cared about his music, Jackson achieved an iconic status that will likely never be matched by anyone, be they a singer, a rock star, an actor, or an influencer. But ever since his death in 2009, the narrative surrounding his legacy has branched off into two very different directions. One attempts to celebrate just how much he contributed to entertainment as a whole. It focuses on how he ascended from his days as the cute kid in the Jackson 5 to the undisputed king of pop. That in and of itself is a hell of a story. But the other attempts to cut through the sheer breadth of his fame to expose the egregious misdeeds he may have committed, which possibly included child abuse. And in an era where the toxic behavior of celebrities has faced greater scrutiny than ever, even the king of pop is not beyond reproach. The story surrounding Jackson's potential misdeeds gained even greater attention thanks to documentaries like Leaving Neverland. And in that film, two of the kids that Jackson allegedly abused, who are now adults with families of their own, get to tell their stories. And having seen that documentary, I can attest that the details are not for the faint of heart. But that being said, it's impossible to know just how true these details are. Yes, we should take accusations of abuse seriously, especially when it's done to a child. But accusations alone aren't proof of anything. And documentaries themselves do have a tendency to be very biased. Some are more objective than others, but I encourage everyone to watch them with a skeptical eye, and that includes Leaving Neverland. Now, that documentary made a compelling case that the accusations were real, but more than a few have come out and challenged the veracity of the accuser's stories. And some of those stories do have legitimate holes in them. Won't go over all of them. I'll just encourage everyone to evaluate all sides of a story before rendering judgment. I also have to point out that in a court of law, Michael Jackson was ultimately acquitted of these alleged crimes. Now, you can agree or disagree with that verdict. You can argue that the only reason he got away with it was because he had great lawyers. But still, at the end of the day, the accusations against him were never proven. But despite that, there's still this underlying sentiment that he's an abuser who got away with his crimes. Is that harsh and judgmental? Yeah, it is. Is it also unfair? To some extent, yeah, it is. Now, personally, I don't blame people for thinking that way about him. Michael Jackson was a weird, eccentric character, to say the very least. But given the nature of his life, how could it not be? Jackson was a child star who somehow managed to become an even bigger star as an adult. His concept of normal is so incredibly skewed that most people can't even begin to understand it. Just ask yourself, what does that kind of fame do to a person, especially someone who experienced it as a kid? Jackson even said in the days leading up to his death that he never had a childhood. His whole life was consumed by fame, celebrity, and stardom. And even today, there aren't too many parallels. Look at some of the biggest celebrities now and from the past decade. From Taylor Swift to BTS, none of them have ever experienced Michael Jackson's level of fame. Not as kids or as adults. For the most part, these people all got to have childhoods. They all had a chance to anchor themselves to the real world, even if it was only to a limited extent in some cases. Hell, even the children of some celebrities have some breathing room before they experience fame. And even then, not all of them handle it well. But Michael Jackson never had that opportunity. After he achieved stardom with the Jackson 5, his life became consumed with celebrity. He ceased being Michael Jackson the kid and forever became Michael Jackson the celebrity. Like so many other child stars, he never faded into obscurity at any point. He always had to be this superstar icon who, no matter what he did, couldn't escape the fame. And it's a caliber of fame that, logistically speaking, isn't really possible today. It's not that some people can't become very famous. It's just that staying famous for as long as Michael Jackson did is next to impossible. We live in an era where one misworded tweet or one scandalous video from a smartphone is enough to cause a celebrity's downfall. That doesn't even begin to get into the possible implications of deepfakes. Now, some stars are more robust than others at managing their fame, but the margin for error these days is just so painfully small. And me personally, I think that's a good thing. I genuinely think fame and the many industries surrounding it should be subject to scrutiny. I don't believe we should go back to the days when celebrities could get away with their egregious behavior just because of their fame. I would even go so far as to say that nobody should ever achieve the level of fame that Michael Jackson achieved. It's not just that such fame can corrupt otherwise decent people. In Michael Jackson's case, he already had issues outside his fame, from his lengthy list of medical ailments to the way his father disciplined him and his brothers. And fame, as is often the case, tends to act as a fuel rather than a catalyst. It compounds both the good and the bad in people. And for someone who has real demons, the bad can lead to outright tragedy. But the level of fame that Michael Jackson achieved wasn't just fuel. It was more akin to atomic-powered napalm, bombarding him with a level of volatility that no human being is equipped to handle, no matter how talented or sincere they might be. Through both the interviews Jackson has conducted and the anecdotes of other celebrities, the effects of such immense fame are painfully clear. Michael Jackson, as talented and weird as he was, just could not escape the more toxic sides of fame. The pressure of navigating that kind of celebrity isn't just daunting, it's physically impossible. It's also likely that that kind of pressure played a role in some of the health issues he endured later in his life. It also probably played a role in his less than normal mental health. Now, let me make one thing clear. None of those issues should absolve him of any crimes he may have committed. But the fact that he is no longer alive to defend his legacy against a contrasting narrative is worth considering when judging him, as both a person and as an icon. I know that won't stop some people from furthering a certain narrative about him, which has already had a substantial impact on Michael Jackson's legacy. But we shouldn't overlook the larger context of his life and the fame that went on to define it. Because regardless of the narrative that best reflects the truth, there are lessons from Michael Jackson's story that are more relevant now than they were when he was alive. Right now, We live in a world where the internet and social media has given people unprecedented access to the world of celebrity. And with that access, the dark and toxic sides are a lot harder to avoid. At the height of his fame in the 80s and 90s, Michael Jackson only ever had to dodge reporters and the paparazzi. He could also rely to some extent on most people not taking the tabloids too seriously. But today, he would have to worry about everyone with a smartphone and a social media account. And for someone of his fame, it would be even more stressful. On top of all that, the nature of politics, social media, and popular trends have made it so that even proven lies can somehow become accepted truths. It doesn't matter how many times they're debunked or acquitted, they never go away. The internet never forgets. Once you've been labeled with an embarrassing smear, it never fades, even if you're 100% innocent. I honestly believe that someone of Michael Jackson's fame and eccentricities would not last long in the current social climate. Hell, it's remarkable how some celebrities manage to sustain themselves for extended periods of time at all. But those individuals are few and far between. And to date, none of them have even come close to achieving Michael Jackson's level of fame. But perhaps that's for the best. Because Michael Jackson was a remarkable, one-of-a-kind celebrity. But the human psyche, no matter how talented or resilient, just is not equipped to handle that kind of stardom. In addition, what it means to be a celebrity is rapidly changing these days thanks to the internet, and even to Jackson's influence on celebrity culture at large. For better or for worse, Michael Jackson's legacy is a testament to just how damaging fame can be when taken to extremes. And in an era where fame is both fleeting and increasingly irrational, it's harder than ever to escape that damage. But even if it's no longer possible for someone to achieve that level of fame, his legacy is still worth learning from. It's not just about that common refrain that fame comes at a price or that celebrities now face greater scrutiny than ever. Michael Jackson achieved a truly extreme level of fame, and it had an extreme effect on him. And like it or not, we, the adoring public, are the ones who feed that fame. And we, that same adoring public, are partially responsible for its toxic effects. Thanks for watching, everyone, and thanks for joining me in my world. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and until next time, take care and stay safe.